With the election less than 80 days away, U.S. Senator Tim Kaine and his Republican challenger, Prince William County Board of Supervisors Chairman Corey Stewart, participated in a candidates forum held at Virginia Tech and was jointly hosted by the Collegiate Times, Young Democrats, and College Republicans of Virginia Tech. The two candidates appeared in front of the same crowd, but separately. After each candidate was introduced, the candidate gave an opening statement and then fielded questions from the audience. All footage of the actual forum is credited to and courtesy of the Collegiate Times. In Chairman Stewart's opening statement, he called political correctness a cult that has taken over the country.
If you ever attempt to leave the cult, you are shunned and degraded and embarrassed. Today, that cult is taught on our university campuses. It is reinforced by government. It is reinforced by the media, including the social media. This is a cult of political correctness. If you have not become a member of the politically correct cult, the PC cult, I urge you not to join it. If you are a member, I urge you to leave it as soon as possible. And with that, and on that positive note, I am looking forward to a free and civil discussion today. Thank you very much.
Once the questions came, Chairman Stewart said under his leadership in Prince William County, the Board of Supervisors prioritized public safety and education.
Values dropped by 60% in Prince William County over the course of a couple of years as the housing crisis came to Virginia and the rest of the country. And because of that, I was forced to make decisions, me and the rest of the Board of Supervisors. And we did, in fact, make some very, very tough decisions. But we also decided that whatever we did, we were going to focus the resources on those services that are most important to our residents, namely public safety. Without public safety, you've got nothing. It is the #1 job of government to protect you, your families, and your rights. We never cut a single police officer. We never cut a single firefighter. And in fact, we continue to hire firefighters and police. We also decided that we were going to prioritize education. And even during the recession, we continued to build schools. We now have over 90,000 children in our jurisdiction. We continue to build schools. We continue to hire teachers.
When asked about his crackdown on illegal immigration in Prince William County, Stewart mentioned the death of Molly Tibbetts to both boos and applause from the audience.
Today in this country, if you're here illegally and you commit a crime, you are brought to jail. And after you've served your sentence, in almost every locality across the United States, instead of being deported, even though you're here illegally, even though you committed a crime, even though you pose a threat to the safety of the citizens of the United States, instead of being deported, you were released back into the community. That is what happened in Iowa. That is why Molly Tibbetts is dead today. That is why.
Stewart boasted of the Trump tax cuts and said they led to a strong economy, but failed to mention that the Trump administration inherited a strong economy where the jobless rate has been falling since 2010, 2 years into the Obama administration.
In December of last year, Congress and the President approved the first major tax cut since 1986. As a result of that tax cut, and even CNN will give the credit for it to the President, as a result of that, we have the lowest unemployment rate in the United States in 50 years. The lowest unemployment rate in 65 years for women in the United States. The lowest unemployment rate ever for African Americans and Hispanics in the United States.
In Senator Kaine's opening statement, he mentioned his time as Lieutenant Governor and Governor of Virginia and his connection to Virginia Tech during that time.
I've had some great happiness in my life connected to Virginia Tech. I was Lieutenant Governor when then Governor Warner worked to get Virginia Tech into the ACC, and that was he'll have to write the novel about it someday. But I also had the worst day of my life connected to Virginia Tech, which was the shooting on April 16th, 2007, when I returned within 24 hours from a trade mission abroad to interact with a community in pain, but also to be inspired by a community that was pulling together to deal with the very significant challenge of that day.
Senator Kaine took questions about the Mountain Valley and Atlantic Coast pipelines.
When FERC granted the permits for both pipelines, they were highly unusual. FERC has 5 members. There were 2 vacancies. They voted to grant the permits by a 2-to-1 vote with 2 vacancies. About a month later, both vacancies were filled. Basically, they rushed to have the vote before they had a full 5-member commission. And with the filling of the vacancies, it was possible that had they waited, the vote would have been 3-2 the other direction. In fact, the fact that there was a dissent at all was highly unusual. About 98% of FERC orders are unanimous. So the fact of a dissent was significant. And I weighed in and encouraged FERC to do a rehearing on both of the petitions now that they had a full 5-member panel.
Senator Kaine touted major deductions in violent crimes and homicides when he was mayor of Richmond and the governor of Virginia, and again called for universal background checks.
How do you plan to tackle the issue of gun violence and gun control?
Well, I started off and talked about this painful issue, and I had experience at an earlier level too, because when I got elected to the Richmond City Council, we had the second highest homicide rate in the United States in 1994. When I left office locally in 2001, we had reduced homicide and violent crime by about 60%. When I became governor, we had an effort to try to make Virginia safer. And even with horrible tragedies, like the tragedy at Virginia Tech, by the end of my time as governor, we had worked our way into the ranks of one of the 10 safest states in the country, which Virginia hadn't been in for a very long time, if ever, in terms of our crime stats. The one thing we should do that would have the most impact is to have universal background checks before the sale or transfer of a gun.
Last week, Breaking Through reported on the candidates' separate visits to Danville and challenged Corey Stewart to reach out to the minority communities in Virginia like Senator Kaine has. We may be one step closer to seeing such an interaction. I reached out to a Stewart campaign staffer over the weekend, and he said the chairman gets invited to black churches and does a lot of Hispanic outreach in Northern Virginia. So if and when the Stewart campaign mentions some form of minority outreach, Breaking Through will be there to witness that interaction and bring it to our viewers, as well as any other important updates in this race. We will also continue to cover the 6th District U.S. congressional race between Virginia state lawmaker Delegate Ben Cline and mental health professional and environmental activist Jennifer Lewis, as they battle it out to replace retiring Republican Congressman Bob Goodlatte. In the Breaking Through newsroom, Theodore Whitelow for Breaking Through.